Studio Ghibli is a wonderful animation studio producing family classics such as Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle. But then there's one movie in this entire lineup that just doesn't match the Disney of Japan, and that is The Grave of the Fireflies. Now, this is a extremely depressing movie, but it's really good. Right now, it's on Netflix, so if you guys have the chance, I say you guys should watch it. But it's so depressing enough that, like, my mom doesn't want to finish it. We watched it when I was in high school, I think, and she couldn't go through the whole movie. She stopped halfway. So here I am, and I decided to rewatch it because it was on Netflix, and I was like, why not, you know? Now, this movie really showcases the horrors and all the negativity with war, and it's a really small story in a big situation, but I feel like because it's so small and it could literally happen to anyone, and it probably did happen to a lot of families in Japan, that it makes you feel even more sad and upsetting about like what's going to happen with these characters. Now, this is the plot, so if you want to watch the movie, I would say stop here and go watch it now because I'm going to spoil the fuck out of it. So this takes place in World War II during the bombing of Kobe, Japan. We are introduced to a small family, Seita, his younger sister, Setsuko, and their mother. And their mother is like not fully okay. You know, she has a couple of health problems, like a heart problem specifically. Now, right away, we are introduced to their everyday horrors of the raids. There's like blaring sirens, everyone's running, and then there's fire all over the place. At this point, though, his mother has already gone to the shelter, so it's just the two siblings trying to get home. Now we see it Seda grabbing a bunch of things that were important to him, such as the photography of like his dad, you know, like a little picture of his dad. And then he also puts some stuff in a hole so they can protect their valuables. I think they had like pickled plums, butter, and something else I can remember. And then they keep this in a hole to protect it from the bombings. Now, the siblings were together and they were hiding out. When the ratings have stopped, they decided to go to their mother, who was in the school. At this point, we find out that Setsuko, or Seida's mother, has passed away from her injuries. Her injuries were just so bad, she was wrapped up in bandages. It was impossible that she was going to live. And in addition to her health problems previously, there was no way she was going to live. So unfortunately, their mother has passed away and they burned her body, and Seida keeps it in this little box. So after the death of their mother, they end up getting sent to the way to their aunts. I think this is on their dad's side specifically, but their aunt was like extremely aggressive towards them, and she was just a total bitch, honestly. Like there's a scene when Seida is playing on the piano for Setsuko, and she yells at them and lectures them on not to play the piano because they're gonna get in trouble and that the country is at war. But however, like keep in mind, Seida is like 12, maybe 13, and Setsuko is probably a toddler at this point, maybe 3 or 2. Now, with the aunt being a total bitch, Setsuko and Seida just had enough. Specifically, Seida. Seida is like, you know what? I'm done here. He is tired of always being ridiculed and being yelled at, so he decides to leave with his little sister and live in a cave. At this point, now it's just the two siblings and them fighting for survival. Now, if you haven't watched the movie, I'm sure people are like, oh, is this where it gets positive? No, it does not. This is where the shit show really happens. At first, the cave thing was cute, you know, it's just like a little boy and his little sister vibing out in a cave, you know, surviving on the elements, but it just goes to shit really fast. So we later on see Setsuko's health declining, and we don't see it right away. It's like a slight decline. You know, we see her kind of like scratching her head a lot because now she has head lice. But then it just gets progressively worse up until the point where she is malnourished. She has rashes. She has like lice. She has all these issues, all these health issues. But Seida does not go back to his aunt. He is still adamant that he can take care of his little sister by himself. And Seida is constantly trying to help his sister. He is always like putting his life on the line to make sure that Setsuko can get what she needs. We see this during the raids. He will go back to the houses of the people who have evacuated and steal shit because he's trying to protect his sister. They don't have any money because I think when they were going to live in the cave, all the mother had in her bank account was like 7,000 yen, which in today's money is $700. Like, I don't think that's enough money to really survive at all, especially two siblings during this time point. But they decided to go ahead and take the money and go live in the cave. You know, at first it was fine. Like, they got a little rice cooker, they got a little pot. It was like they were vibing out. But then now it just got progressively worse because people are not selling shit. Everyone's trying to survive on their own too. Like, there's a part where he is robbing a farmer and like steals their crops. And you know what happens to him? He gets beat the fuck up and then thrown into jail. Of course, like the policeman was like kind of nice about it and then just like write a report or whatever. But still, he got his ass beat. So he got his ass beat. He's going to houses during raids. During the raids, like he could easily just died at any moment and leave Miss Setsuko all by herself in the cave. But he still keeps going. He's still adamant that he will protect his little sister any way he knows how. And then just as when everything was starting to become back to normal, you know, people who evacuated going back to their homes and everyone seems to having their normal life back, or the starting of getting their normal life back, that is when Setsuko dies. Which in my opinion is super sad, because for society, when things are just starting to like turn out just to be fine, you know, like they start to think that they are okay because Japan has decided to surrender. So there's no more raids, there's no more tragedy in their lives. Setsuko has already passed. And I feel as though if Setsuko could have hung on like a little bit longer, she may have been able to survive. But unfortunately, she passed away right when Japan decided to surrender. And it's just so sad to me because, like, when everyone else is, like, getting their normal lives back, Seida's life has just been completely shattered, you know? Now it's just him. He's lost his mother, his father, too. I forgot to mention. I think he died during the war. And now Setsuko. So it's literally just himself. Towards the end of the movie, we see Seida burning Setsuko's body and putting her ashes inside of a fruit drop can that she loved. And he keeps it with him. And then we also see that Seida has also passed away in the beginning of the movie inside of a train station. So nobody in their little family has survived. And that's literally the end of The Grave of the Fireflies. That is the whole movie in a nutshell. Now, what the fuck? Like I said, this is Studio Ghibli. They make a lot of family-friendly stuff. And then they have this beautiful masterpiece that is tragic. And it's so sad and depressing. By the way, fun fact, this was actually released as a double feature with My Neighbor Totoro. So, like, I think it'd be funny is, like, after you watch Totoro, you're like, oh, that's kind of cute. And then all of a sudden, you just get thrown into, like, a shit show and depression. And then you're like, well, that was pretty fun, you know? Nice to take the kids along. That being said, though, I love this movie. It's beautiful. It's tragic. I love it so much. But I want to talk about something very specific, and that is, this is not just a cautionary tale about war, but about pride as well. And what I mean by this is with Seida's character. So Seida is an extremely prideful teenager. You know, he's always trying to be, well, I wouldn't say egotistical, but he just has a lot of pride for himself, right? His dad was in the Navy. You know, he talks really high about his dad in Japan. And then we see this to a fault. The aunt was a total bitch, right? 100%. I agree. Total bitch, right? But at any point of the movie, he could have come back and apologized to the aunt. And before everyone's like, oh, well, she wouldn't have taken them back. Yes, she would, because when they were leaving, she obviously did seem a little distressed. When she heard Setsuko, she ran back in to see what was going on. So it's obvious that she does care about these guys, right? So I think he could have gone back at any time, seen Setsuko's like condition, and she would have taken them back in a heartbeat. But Seida decided not to. His pride, you know, demeanor, he thinks that he can take care of Setsuko all by himself, but in reality he can't. What he can't provide is what the aunt can provide, which is a safe shelter. Every like time you compare like the aunt's house to the cave, you can see the differences, right? They're living literally in the fucking wild. At least with the aunt's house, although she's a total bitch, they have access to fresh water, a nice futon. They have all these luxuries that they could have had, but instead they still decide to go to the cave. But now I say they, right? But it's actually Seida's decision, because Setsuko cannot make decisions for herself. She's just a little toddler. So Seida really did just mark her for death when he decided not to come back to his aunt. And fuck, we see this with the farmer. When Seida is walking by a farmer, he asked, hey, I have some money. Can I buy some hay off of you, buy something else? But the farmer says, no, I don't have enough to sell. And actually tells Seida that he should go back to the aunt and apologize. But you know what Seida does? He says no thanks, and that he'll look somewhere else.
Everything's rationed now. You can't survive outside the system.
Thanks anyway.
Seida is just in denial of how bad things are really getting for Setsuko, that he just completely ignores it. I swear, anytime, any moment, he could have gone back. The doctor said that all she needed was to be nourished. And Seda says, where am I supposed to get that? The ant. That's where you're supposed to go. That's what he should have done. But he is so prideful that he decides not to. And at the cost of his pride, he loses his only family member left, and that was Setsuko. Now, Seida's character, specifically his pride, I feel like is a good little critique towards Japan during the bombing. So I believe this movie came out in 1988, so 40 years after the bombing of Hiroshima, roughly. And then Japan was like this. Okay, Japan was an extremely prideful country at this point, and I believe they still are. But during World War II, the bombing of Hiroshima, the first bomb, okay, Japan did not tell anyone. The government just kept it quiet. They didn't tell the other cities. They just kept it hush-hush. So the only people who knew about Hiroshima was the government and the families involved. That were the only two, like, I guess, groups that really knew. Nobody else knew. Nagasaki didn't know. Nobody knew because Japan did not tell the public. They kept it hushed. It was underpublicized. Japan just kept fighting after the first bomb. You would think after the first bomb, especially something so tragic as Hiroshima, they would have stopped. But they didn't. They kept fighting. So what did America do? They bombed Nagasaki to show Japan that they were not messing around. And that's when Japan has decided to surrender. And in my opinion, Seida's prideful demeanor is literally just like Japan. I just absolutely adored this film, even though it's so tragic, because normally when I would watch World War II movies, they'd always focus on the battles, such as Hacksaw Ridge, Saving Private Ryan, even like Inglourious Basterds to a certain extent, but never on like the tragedies of the civilians. This is just such a good watch, you know, and it's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, please go ahead and watch it. It's tragically beautiful. Like, that's the best way I would describe this movie. It's tragic yet beautiful. And it tugs at your heartstrings, you know, like you want to root for these siblings, even like against the odds. But like I said, this is just one story of many. And I'm sure there are many families in Japan at this time who suffered even greater than the siblings or had like a very similar story. And this is just like, mwah, masterpiece. I love this film. I'm so sorry you guys are expecting another Overwatch video or like Marvel Rival video. It's just like, I'm sorry. I have an exam coming up, and I was like, I'll just do a really quick video about Studio Ghibli because I like Studio Ghibli, and I'm sorry if this was not your taste. Like I said, it's just because like I didn't have a lot of time, and I did see on the poll that it was even, so I don't know what I'm gonna do about that for the video, but I am working on it. It was just kind of like, which one would you rather see first? Not like it was gonna be right after. I'm sorry if there's like a misconception in advance, but yeah, like honestly, we'll see. So, because of the even, maybe I just flip a coin. A quick shout out to my members: Kawaiiru, Waki, Wakito Woo Woo, aka Waki number 2, Little Layla, Fruit Bowl, Jerry Rico, Onesie Lightyear, Manny 2062, Faded Visions, Peace Tea Life, Javante 0.